What is one ancient African vocation that a child from a part of Africa, living in a part of Africa, would probably consider cool today? Here's two that come to mind. Palm wine tapper. Yes, winemaker, brewer, wine taster. Second, fisherman, sailor, diver, sea navigator. In this next episode of the World of African Ideas, African children will get to discover more about the peculiarities and uniqueness of Africa. Welcome to the World of African Ideas. I'm so thrilled that you are visiting me once again. Thank you very much for coming to spend your time with me. As you know, in the World of African Ideas, all of us get to discover great people, great places, great objects and inventions, great foods, great animals within the ecosystem, but best of all, great ideas to come out of Africa and that are connected with Africa. Isn't that fascinating? Yes. I love it. Yes, thank you for coming to spend time discovering the world of African ideas with me. And as you know, here, I begin every visit with a game. I have another game for you today. Do you remember my favorite game?
Yes, Koko.
Splendid. Today, I want us to do something a little bit different. We are going to talk about an African idea. Can you tell me an African idea that starts with the letter E? Yes? Exercise. Exercise, but no, I don't think exercise is, native to Africa. It didn't originate from Africa. We've always been physical and we've always exercised, but no, the concept and the word itself is not native to Africa. Elders. Do you know who elders are? Yes?
People who are like old.
Exactly. In Africa, we hold elders very dearly. Elders have a very prestigious place in African philosophy and African belief systems. Yes?
People who are older than you.
Older is different from elder. Elders are people who typically are the oldest members of the society. In Africa, elders are believed to be custodians of traditions, of wisdom, and vast experience. We treasure elders because we believe that they provide guidance. They give good advice and good counsel to younger people. They give advice to leaders. They counsel families. They help to solve disputes and conflicts, right? And they provide solutions to great challenges that have affected communities for long periods. This is why we revere the positions of elders. An elder is a trusted and wise counselor because of their vast years of experience on earth. This is why in Africa we are called elders great respect. Can you think of an elder in your community?
My grandma.
Very correct. Grandmas hold the positions in our families as wise elders. They guide us about great family traditions. They guide us on great cooking traditions also. They guide us on dressing traditions, on manners, on ways of keeping peace, and how best to serve in our different roles in the family and in the community. Women make very good elders. Yes? Grandparents, both grandma and granddaddy. Yes. Grandfathers are wise elders too. They speak to younger men, they speak to younger women. They guide men on how to be great fathers, good leaders, effective leaders, both in the home and in the community. We have to listen to very wise elders, right? Thank you. Now let's move on to another aspect of this visit that I love very dearly. It's time for me to share a story with you. And I have a fascinating story to share with you. This one goes far back to Africa in the 13th century. What century are we in currently? 21st. So 13th century means how many centuries ago? 8 centuries ago. That's when this great king was born, in the year 1217. But let me backtrack a little bit to the circumstances surrounding his birth. His name was Sundiata Keita. Have you heard that name before? Wow.
Sounds confusing.
Oh no, it sounds charismatic because he's one of the most charismatic kings and leaders to ever come out of Africa. Sundiata Keita. Before there was ever the Mali kingdom, before there was ever Mansa Musa that I taught you about visits ago, there was a great warrior, a great king called Sundiata Keita. Let me tell you about him. In a small kingdom called Niani, where the Mandinka people of modern day Mali once existed, there was a great king called Magan the Handsome, a very handsome, regular king who ruled over the Niani kingdom. One day, 2 hunters burst into his palace. They had a message from the gods for the king. In West African traditions, hunters were not just people who tracked animals. No, hunters were great custodians of spiritual practices. They understood the forces of nature, the unseen forces of nature, and they heard directly from the gods. So that day, 2 hunters burst into the palace of Magan the Handsome. They had a message for the king. You are going to give birth, they said, to one of the greatest kings that the world will ever see. By that time, Magan the Handsome already had sons. He already had his principal wife and his son. So this news was strange. I am going to give birth, but I already have a son who is heir to my throne. They said, no, he is not born yet. And he is going to be born by a very strange and ugly woman. But his destiny is already settled. The prophecy is that he will be the greatest king ever to come out of the great vast West African kingdom. And so everybody in the palace began to whisper, wow, wow, wow. And King Magan the Handsome was waiting. And soon, one day, a woman visited the palace. She looked horrible. She was hunchbacked. She was dirty and distressed looking. She looked socially awkward and very unkempt. And the king remembered the prophecy that this great king will be born by this woman. And the sorcerers and the wise men in the palace said to him, this is going to be the mother of the great king that will ever come out of Africa. So he took her in and she became his mistress and concubine. And one day she had a son. And the king and all the palace were excited because they believed that this was the fulfillment of the prophecy. And the baby began to grow. Months, a year went by, but strangely, the baby could not walk. And everybody was stunned. Is this the great king that is going to come out of Africa? A baby that cannot walk? Everywhere he needed to go, they had to carry him. He continued to crawl. Age 1, age 2, age 7. He was still crawling. And everybody began to mock his mother, Songola. This is the person they said is the mother of the greatest king. I remember the king had a first wife who already had a son for him. And she was very bitter because of that prophecy. She was jealous because she believed that whichever son was born out of that prophecy was going to contest the throne with her own son. And so she was bitter. And she began to mock Songola. Useless woman, rubbish. And she told all the palace helps and all the palace servants not to assist Songola. They shouldn't provide any services to Songola. They shouldn't help birth the baby, care for the baby. And so she mocked and spited Songola and her son. Samsuma, when she heard that the mother of this crippled baby, wanted baobab leaves, she went into the courtyard and plucked a whole tree and came and flung it at Songola. Take! You mother of a crippled child! Take! Your son cannot even help you pluck leaves for cooking. And Songola started crying. This was too much. It was too much. And she began to weep. And her son, Sundiata, saw his mother crying, and his heart was pained. How can his mother continue to endure this shame on account of his legs not being able to walk? And so that day, from the depths of his soul, a willpower came, and he determined that for the first time he must stand. Even though by that time his legs had almost shrunken because he had never used them. But willpower came from deep in his soul, and he was determined. And so he struggled and struggled until eventually he stood. Everybody was shocked. Immediately, with an authority that they had never heard before, Sundiata ordered the palace blacksmith to go and craft a staff, an iron staff for him, so that he could use it as an aid for walking. The strongest staff ever, although hesitant, because the strongest staff ever for a boy who has never walked before, the blacksmith was skeptical. He wouldn't be able to carry it, but he obeyed. And he designed and crafted a powerful metal staff that even the great warriors in the land could not carry. But Sundiata lifted it, and stood upon it, and began to use it every day to practice until his legs gained strength. And he became a marvel in the palace. Everybody whispered, "It is true, it is true. He walks, his legs are gaining strength." And one day, Sundiata, with new power in his legs, burst into the courtyard where Samsuma had plucked those leaves from the baobab tree and flung on his mother. And in anger, he went to that baobab tree and lifted it, uprooted it from its roots and held it high. And everybody screamed, "This is the prophesied king! This is the prophesied king! He not only walks, he uplifts and uproots a baobab tree." This was unheard of in all the kingdom. No man, no warrior has ever been able to uproot a strong, huge baobab tree. But this small boy, just with only a few months of walking, has successfully uprooted and held high a baobab tree. And so his legend began to spread. But not everyone was rejoicing. The first wife of the king was very angry. Obviously, he would contend for the throne with her son, Dankaran. And so one day the king fell sick. And soon his sickness progressed, and very soon it was obvious he was going to die. And it was time for him to pick who his heir would be. But the words of his first wife, the evil seeds that she had sown, stayed in his mind. Not that he believed her, but he realized that if he picked Sundiata, he would put Sundiata's life in danger. Because as long as Samsuma remained alive, she would forever threaten Sundiata. She might even poison him. So, instead of Sundiata, the prophesied boy, prophesied king, he picked his first son, Dankaran, as the next king of Nyani. Even though Dankaran was a weak boy, he picked him as the next king. As soon as he became the next king, his mother Samsuma was very happy. But she looked around and decided that she must get rid of Sundiata and his mother. For as long as Sundiata remained alive, then Sundiata would always be a threat to the kingdom. And people who believed the prophecy would not fully serve her son Dankaran because they would believe that he was not the rightful king. So she was determined to kill him. And she began to hire assassins. She went to medicine men. She tried to poison him. She tried to do everything to kill him. But it was as though the gods had created an invisible protection around him. Nothing worked. Every attempt she made on his life failed. Poison did not work. Assassins' bullets, assassins' arrows could not permeate. Arrows bent. They simply could not kill Sundiata. But Songola knew that one day her plan, the plan of Samsuma, would work. And so one night, she picked her son and folded a few clothes, and taking nothing, they fled from the kingdom. With only a few loyal warriors who believed in the prophecy, there was also one friend of Sundiata who wanted to go with them. He was a griot. A griot is a member of the palace who holds the history and the traditions and the cultures of the palace and passes it on from generation to generation. His name was Bala Fasaka. Bala wanted to go with Sundiata, who had made friends with him and many other people, because Sundiata's personality was so great, his character so strong, he was so humble that everybody loved him. People wanted to be with him, they were drawn to him, and this made Samsuma even more envious. But Songola said to Bala, "Don't come with us. Stay and remain our loyal friend in the palace." And they fled the palace. With nothing on their back and no food, they began to wander around kingdom after kingdom, looking for hospitality, looking for a place to live. But everybody had heard of this prophesied king and how the new king Dankaran was after his life. And so they were afraid that if they harbored him and if they housed him, they would incur the wrath of Dankaran, and Dankaran would send warriors to attack them. So no king was willing to house these refugees. Every time, only after a few days, they would chase them out and say, "Please go. We would like to help you, but we don't want to incur the anger of Dankaran. We don't want warriors to come and attack us." And so they would continue to wander and wander for many years. And this weakened his mother. His mother grew very weak. Many days they would go without food. They were exposed to the harsh sun, harsh cold, the brutal weather. They had no food for many days. Animals would attack them. They would run. It was horrible. They wandered for a long time. But in the process of wandering, they visited many kingdoms. They entered many palaces. Sundiata made many friends with great warriors. Remember, his personality was so great and friendly. His character was so strong that a lot of people were always drawn to Sundiata. So soon Sundiata had many friends across many kingdoms. He sat in many palaces and studied how great kings ruled and saw the difference between great kings and weak kings. He saw how kingdoms flourished and became great, and he saw how kingdoms could easily be destroyed. So it was a great education for Sundiata all those years of wandering. One day he arrived at the kingdom of Membe, where there was a great king, Tunkara, who welcomed them and agreed to host them. And after many years of wandering about, exposed to harsh weather, vicious animals, terrible conditions, and starvation, they finally had a home in Membe Kingdom. Sundiata began to fight as a warrior in the king's army, King Tunkara's army, and he was a brave warrior. He destroyed all enemies of King Tunkara. He fought wild beasts and always came out victorious. And soon his legend spread. He won many wars for King Tunkara, making his kingdom stronger. King Tunkara rewarded him. King Tunkara had no sons and so wanted to hand over his kingdom after his death to who? Sundiata. But Sundiata remembered that he was the son of Songala and the prophesied king, that he was the fulfillment of prophecy, and he refused to let go of his birthright and his destiny. But far away in Niani, things were also happening. Guess what? A great king emerged in West Africa who was ravaging different kingdoms. He was a dark sorcerer, a great wicked and evil magician. He used black magic to fight wars, and he conquered every kingdom that he attacked. No king was able to defeat him. His name was Samsauri. Samsauri was visiting every kingdom, attacking and winning, destroying, killed everyone, plundered, burnt all the homes in the village, destroyed the farmlands. And guess what Dankari did? He climbed on a horse and ran like a coward that he was, while his brave warriors fought and died. And that was how Niani Kingdom was captured. But the wise men in the land remembered the prophecy. The wise men of the Mandinka people remembered that there was a prophesied king who had been sent away on exile, who had run away because this wicked Dankari king had wanted to kill him. And so they sent messengers to look all over West Africa for Sundiata, the prophesied king, with the message, the kingdom of Niani needs you. You are the rightful heir to the throne. Come and liberate us from this wicked, dark, evil sorcerer king. And very soon, the messengers arrived in Membe kingdom and they delivered the message. And Sundiata was troubled. Even though King Tunkara had promised him he would become a king, he remembered that his destiny was to become the great king of Niani and the great king of Africa. So he knew it was time to respond to the call of his people for liberation. He went to the king Tunkara and requested to be released to go and fight and liberate and free his people. And Tunkara agreed. Tunkara gave him warriors to go with him, gave him weapons to go with him, but also more importantly, gave him his what? His blessing. And so, with that legitimacy and that backing, Sundiata began to travel back across West Africa, heading back to his kingdom to save his people. But he knew that he could not win against this great king by himself. He needed allies. So remember, in all those years of wandering, he had made friends. So kingdom after kingdom, he began to visit all the great kings and request for their support, request for their what? Cooperation. But his condition was different. But he said, when we win, I will not rule over you. Rather, we will rule as allies. We will introduce something called a confederacy. All of us will come together as one union. So all the different kingdoms, instead of existing as fragments, divided, they will form one big kingdom of Mali. And each of them will be equal. They will be equal kings. And Sundiata will only be king over these kings. And they agreed to the terms. It was a great term. Instead of paying tribute and worshipping the new king, they would all be able to sit on the same table as advisors of this great king. They liked the terms. So one after the other, each kingdom began to send their warriors. And soon Sundiata's army began to grow. And he began to build a great army. But he didn't only stop there. He went and visited the great hunters. And he asked the hunters for their support. Remember, hunters are not only people who track animals. Hunters understand the unseen forces of nature, and they have great magic that allows them to hear from the gods. Sundiata persuaded the great hunters to join his army, and they did. And soon his army grew, and they began to make their way towards Niani to reclaim his country, his conquered kingdom of Niani, and to fight against the evil kings. But Sundiata also knew that this evil sorcerer had an invisible secret. He had a black magic, a secret weapon of dark magic that was the key to all his victories. And for him to successfully win against this king, he needed to understand that great secret. Guess what? Remember his friend who was left behind in the palace years ago, Bala Fasaka, who was the great griot, who lived in the palace and held the cultures and the traditions and the history of the palace? He was now in this new evil king's palace. This new king had absorbed him as a griot in his palace. And a griot has access to the inner chambers of the king. So even though Bala Fasaka began to serve this new king, Samsuri, he was loyal to his true master, Sundiata. So he was interested and very committed to discovering the secret of this wicked and evil sorcerer king. And so one day, when Samsuma had left the palace, Bala Fasaka snuck into the inner chamber of the king, into his temple, where he kept his bloody, evil charms. And when the music was played, his powers grew. And so Bala began to play the balafon, and the balafon began to whisper to him the secret. And the balafon told him that the great secret to this king is in a white rooster. You know what a rooster is? What is it?
It's like a hen.
A male hen, a rooster. The one that what? The one that crows to wake everybody up, right?
Yes.
A white rooster. And the balafon taught him the secret. To kill this evil king, you must make an arrow that has the feather of the rooster, the white rooster. And the claw of the white rooster must be the tip of the arrow, with the feather tied to it. That is the only arrow that can kill this king. That was how Bala discovered the secret to destroying this evil sorcerer king. Without that arrow, nothing else could kill him. If you shoot arrows, it wouldn't work. So, Sundiata's army began to arrive, and Samsure heard that he was coming and began to laugh. I am undefeatable. I will defeat this rebellion. This small, useless king prophesied my foot. And Bala gave him the secret. He had revealed the secret to Sundiata. And so Sundiata fashioned a weapon, an arrow with the feather of the rooster, a white rooster, and the claw of the white rooster. And he held it. And when the evil sorcerer king met Sundiata's army at the war front, he continued to fight, and they fought for many days. Sundiata was brave, and fought fearlessly until he came face to face with the evil sorcerer king. And what did he do? He brought out the secret weapon. That king thought that he was invincible. Nobody could kill him. He didn't realize that his secret had been revealed. And that was how Sundiata the arrow flew until it pierced the wicked king. And in surprise, the arrow did not bend. It pierced into his heart and he fell dead. And that was how the great king, sorcerer king, was finally defeated. And Nyani was liberated. And all the neighboring kingdoms that the evil king of Soso, Samsure, had conquered, they began to rejoice that the great king Sundiata, the king of prophecy, has finally liberated them. And true to his word, he didn't subject the other warriors. He didn't make them his slaves. Rather, he united all the kingdoms into one. And that, instead of Nyani, for the first time, Sundiata Keita founded the great Mali kingdom. And that was how the great kingdom of Mali was finally born. A kingdom of kingdoms. A kingdom with many kings united together as one, and brought all their different inventions and all their military strength together, united. And for the first time, the empire of Mali stood tall, undefeatable, under the reign of Sundiata Keita. In the 13th century, this is the great king who ruled the world and became the fulfillment of a great prophecy that a great king would emerge all over the world, undefeatable, unconquerable. His name is Sundiata Keita. Did you enjoy the story of Sundiata Keita?
Yes.
What did you learn about Sundiata Keita?
What I learned about him is not by how you are born. It's about if you are willing to. If you are determined to do that thing.
Yes, determination matters. And faith in yourself. He believed that he was ordained to be king. Even when he was in the kingdom of Tunkara and that one wanted to make him his heir, he believed that he was a destined king in his own kingdom. And he reminded himself, and he was brave, and he worked hard, he fought, he trained, he strengthened his legs. And that was how he became a strong warrior. Not just because of the circumstances of his birth, but he also was determined and worked very hard to earn the title of the greatest king Mali has ever seen. Yes? Exactly. And that is the legacy of Sundiata Keita.
Thank you for playing my favorite African game with me. Now let's find the next items in the game. Here, let's find a place in Africa that starts with the letter E. Ethiopia. Ethiopia is Africa's oldest independent country and the second most populous country in Africa, with a population of over 115 million people currently. It is the only African nation that was never colonized. Ethiopia is known for its ancient history and running a 13-month calendar. It is also famous for its ancient Christian Orthodox heritage. Ethiopia is renowned also for being the birthplace of coffee and for having distinct cuisine like injera. Finally, Ethiopia is very important because it is the home to the African Union, which is a group of African countries that work together to solve problems and make Africa better. The African Union's main office is in Ethiopia's capital city, Addis Ababa. Would you like to visit Ethiopia soon?
That's a very wonderful story. Unfortunately, we have to move on to the next part of your visit because you have to leave me soon. I want to share with you an important African proverb. And this one comes from the great country of Ghana. It says, "New brooms sweep clean, but it is the old ones that know all the dirty corners." New brooms sweep clean, but old brooms know all the dirty corners. Do you know what that proverb means? Yes?
That old people, that elders, they know a lot about life because they've experienced it. But new people that are young and still growing, they're fresh and they can do things right. But the old one knows it.
Wonderful, very brilliant. Though youthfulness comes with a lot of strength and understanding of new technologies and new ways of new skills, we must never discount the experience and the wisdom of the aged people and the elders. That is why in Africa we treasure elders. Because when we work together, generationally, intergenerationally, young people cooperating with elderly people, we can combine their wisdom with our strength and our competencies, and we can make Africa even greater. Okay? Now, I have another special treat for you. We're going to talk about wealth the Mansa Musa way. I gave you an assignment last week. I said you should come back and tell me, what skills do you have that you think you can use to earn money from? Anybody want to share? Okay.
So I have 2 hobbies that I know I can make money from.
Hobbies? Are they skills?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can design canvas slides very well.
Ooh.
And if you don't like designing or you're just too tired to, you can call me and you can ask me to help you. You can give me a team and
Lovely. So for people who have to do public presentations and want to create slides that they will use the computer to present to an audience, you can help them design that. That's a very important skill that I know a lot of organizations would pay you big money for. Yes?
I can run like an athlete.
Ooh, so you have athletic talent and skills. A lot of people, you can represent maybe your school, maybe your state, or maybe Nigeria someday. And you can make a lot of money from being a super athlete, a top athlete representing your country in great international tournaments and competitions. Maybe you would be a runner in the Olympics someday. Would you like that?
Yes, sir.
That's nice. What skill do you have?
Like making things from scratch.
Ooh.
Recyclable.
I love that. So you are good with recycling things and turning waste into wealth. A lot of people would pay good money and you can make great things, from artworks to great fashion items that people would willingly pay money for. I'm excited to discover your amazing skills and hopefully you can share with me how you're making money from them someday.
Next, what is an animal in Africa that starts with the letter E? I know. Elephant. An elephant is the largest animal that lives on land and can be found in many parts of Africa. Elephants are strong, intelligent, and gentle giants. They're easy to recognize because they have special features. A long trunk, which they use to pick up food, drink water, and even greet other elephants. Long ivory tusks, which help them dig, lift things, and protect themselves. Large ears, which they use to stay cool in the hot sun. Thick gray skin that protects them from heat, insects, and rough plants. And strong pillar-like legs that carry their heavy bodies. There are 3 main kinds of elephants in the world. 2 originate from Africa, while the 3rd is found in parts of Asia. Elephants are very intelligent, communicating with one another using sounds and body movements. In fact, in Africa, there is a famous saying, "An elephant never forgets."
But now we're going to talk about something important. We want to talk about the difference between needs and wants. Needs and wants, right? What's the difference between needs and wants? Yes?
Need is when you actually need something.
You're using the same word.
Wait, like you need clothes.
Okay.
You need shelter, you need food. But want is like when you don't need it.
Okay.
Like if you already have food and you don't like the food, you can just say, I want something different.
Okay, thank you. So he's correct. Needs are essentials. We have to have them to survive and to live. Why? Because without them, we can't live or survive. But wants are desires. They're things we can do without. They are not a must-have, but it would be nice to have, right? They're nice to have, but they are not necessarily essentials. Give me an example.
Of want?
Yes.
Okay. Like if you want candy.
Exactly. Candy.
Toys.
Toys.
If you want something on Amazon.
Shopping on Amazon. Yes. It depends. You can find some of your needs on Amazon, right? Like some food stuff, essential food stuff.
Shoes.
Amazon is just a shop, right? And in shops, you can find your needs and your wants, essentials and luxuries, or just nice to have items, right? So you have to know the difference between needs and wants, because when you have money, you have to be able to identify. You must spend money on your needs, because without them, you can't survive, right? You have to spend money on food to survive. You have to spend money on shelter. You have to spend money on clothing. But you don't need to have what? Ice cream every day. You don't need to have fancy boots, right? So you must know the difference. Because if you spend all your money on only things you want, you're not going to have any money saved up. Every time you want to spend, you must do a mental checklist. Is it a need or is it a want? Okay? That's one of the ways to put aside money and save money for the future and for investments. So what you're going to do for me, when you go home, I want you to write a list of some of the needs you believe you have and some of the wants that you desire, and share them with me next time you visit me. Okay? Can you do that? Good.
Next, what is a food original to Africa that starts with the letter E? Eba. Eba is a popular food in many West African countries, especially in Nigeria. It is made from gari, which comes from cassava. To make eba, hot water is added to the gari and stirred until it becomes a smooth, thick dough. People usually eat eba with soups like egusi or okra. Instead of using a spoon, you pinch a small piece with your fingers, roll it into a ball, dip it into the soup, and swallow it. That's why foods like eba are sometimes called swallow. Eba is loved because it is simple, filling, and goes well with delicious soups. Would you like me to prepare eba for you?
Good. Now, the last thing we do before we go is that I share with you an important role model, right? I have a great role model for you. Do you know this person?
Yeah.
Exactly. Kanu Nwankwo. Kanu Nwankwo is an incredible role model for African children. Boy born into poor family conditions, trained for many years on the streets of Owerri in Nigeria in the love and passion of football until he became an international football player and one of the most decorated football players in African history. He not only led the Nigerian team, the Super Eagles, to win the gold medal in the 1996 Olympics, but he soon became one of the highest scorers, one of the highest scoring players in one of the most famous English clubs in the world, Arsenal. Exactly. And he did all this with a hole in his heart. He had a heart condition that affected him when playing, but he did not give up. Even after heart surgery and working for many years for his body to recover, he went back on the field as a player. And a coach called Arsene Wenger selected him to join the club Arsenal. And Kanu did his best, trained, disciplined himself, and trained until his body recovered enough for him to become a top scorer once again in the world. And that was how Kanu came out of a terrible health situation to become a top scorer for one of the most famous clubs in history, Arsenal. That's a story of what? Discipline. A story of faith, conviction. A story of what? Commitment. Commitment to personal success. Determination. And that's why Kanu Nwankwo today is an example for African children all over the world. And courage. Courage to believe that despite your humble background, you can become anything you want to become in the world. I think he's an exciting role model. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
And finally, what is an object found in Africa that starts with the letter E? Ebony. Ebony is a very strong and dark wood that grows in parts of Africa, especially in countries like Nigeria, Cameroon, and Ghana. It comes from a tree, and the wood is known for its deep black color and smooth, hard surface. For many years, African artists have used ebony to make beautiful carvings, such as statues, masks, and other decorative objects. These carvings often tell stories about people, animals, and culture. Ebony trees also grow in some places outside Africa, like India and Sri Lanka. But African ebony is especially valued because of its rich color and high quality. Do you own an ebony object at home?
Thank you guys. It's been so much fun sharing and learning with you today. Did you enjoy yourselves?
Yes, yeah, Koko.
I look forward to your visit next time. But until then, bye.
Bye.